April she was on the call bright and early, came on, and now.
What happened to her internet? She's having a problem.
Yeah, but she'll be back on. So we are live, which is great. What's up, everybody? This is Wesley Hamilton. Welcome to Open Up and our safe spaces with myself and April. She's not here, so April's normally the one that kind of get the intro going and getting us pumped up. But of course, I take the wheel, literally. But we have some amazing guests today. We're going to be talking about a couple different things, all things running though, and how running speaks for any and everybody, no matter your ability and the things that you can do. We have some amazing guests that are runners that, have I would say a pretty competitive mindset when it comes to running and just pushing people and pushing themselves. So you guys are really love like the conversation that we're going to have today. I mean, like for instance, like Natalie just finished an 18-mile run. So I mean, come on now, it's Sunday. We already going 18 miles on a Sunday. And she's Pacific time too. So it was early run. That was an early run. But it's things like that, that really is intriguing to hear, especially in the time that it got done. I'll let you kind of provide some more info on that, Natalie. But it's just, to me, just hearing it a few seconds ago, I'm still mind blown by it, because I'm telling you, I can only do a good 6 in that time, and you've done amazing. So we have Natalie here and we have Derrick. I have a Frenchie too, y'all. So if ever we kind of have to go mute, it's because of the dogs. All right. So Natalie Mitchell, is that correct?
That's right.
All right. So we have Natalie Mitchell here, and we have Derrick. Is it Schofner?
Shoffner. Close.
Shoffner.
You're right.
Hey, see, and normally I don't, do good with names. So at least I tried today, which is great. All right. So Natalie and Derrick, it is great to have you. Can you please give a quick introduction of who you are and what you do, and why running is important to you, and how you implement that into the community? I let Natalie start. I feel like Natalie running off of adrenaline right now. So
okay, I'll go first. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm so happy to be here. As Wesley was saying, I just got back from a long run, and I did shower. I jumped in the shower, and I'm super happy to be here. I just love the sport of running so much. I've been running since I was a kid with my parents. So let's see, I am a running coach, and I love helping people achieve their own goals in the sport of long distance running. I also coach high school cross country and track. Let's see, I am a 12-time marathoner, and I love the marathon distance. Currently working to get a lot faster. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids, 14, 11, and 8, and they are growing so fast. And I've been married for a long time to my husband and also my co-host. We co-host a show together, a podcast called the Sweet Run Podcast, where we talk to passionate runners who love this sport, and they talk about their running journey. And then most importantly, they talk about where they live, and they tell the audience the best places to run where they live, the best places to eat and hang out and stay. So we love doing that. And that airs every Thursday. It's the Sweet Run Podcast. And what else? I just love running, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for being here. It's great to have you here. April is back. Yes, April, right now we're just running through some introductions. So I'm going to let Derrick go ahead and do his introduction, and then we'll jump right into our convo.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. So happy to be here, and so happy to be nice We're so happy to be part of this panel here. Super excited for that and to chat with everyone here. So for those that don't know, my name is Derrick Shoffner. I am in Pittsburgh, PA, right with April. That's where we first kind of met here. Currently at my role, I am the assistant program director at P3R, so Pittsburgh Three Rivers Marathon. We host about 13 to 15-ish running events throughout the calendar year. And I'm assistant director there, leading programming, being out in the community, really harnessing the power and the vehicle of running to help people achieve their maximum potential. So super excited about that. So happy to be talking about running. Here in Pittsburgh, I do a little bit of everything. So a large health and wellness enthusiast, so to speak, group fitness instructor, nutrition coach, personal trainer, one-on-one running coach, just about a little bit of everything here in the city of Pittsburgh. So I'm super excited to chat about all things running here.
That is so awesome. You are like master of all trades. And I don't know if Natalie had a chance to tell everybody, she just finished an 18-mile run. Like she ran and she's sitting in the chair, like talk about that life.
You know, I try not to stress it as much, but I did kind of drop it before she could even say it because I'm just amazed by it myself. I think that's pretty awesome. And like my question would be, this is normal for you, right? Like 18-mile runs on a good day is just normal, or was it like, you know, a goal that you were trying to reach today?
So, I mean, when I'm in the middle of a marathon training block, it is normal. I'm not in the middle of a marathon training block, and I'm just working with my coach, and he's helping me to get faster. And this is actually the longest run I've done in a while. I actually had knee surgery at the end of October. So we've just been building a base and some speed and strength and cross training. And so today was a big day, and I was happy to get it done. I'm going to hang out with you guys and then rest and relax for the rest of the day. But yeah, you know, it was great to be out there in the morning. I got to see the sunrise this morning, and it was just a beautiful morning. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love our sport so much.
That makes me think of, like you said, this is the longest run, knee surgery. And we've talked about this, you know, the title is running is for everybody. And we are kind of making a play on that. Is it for everybody? How is it for everybody? And how can it be for everybody? And we've talked about, you know, the intersectionality often here. I'm African-American woman. Wes is an African-American male. I have ability in my physical body, my mind. I'm a little neurodiverse. Wes has physical ability. Like you guys, I'm sure, you know, would you say you wake up at 4 a.m. and start working out, doing your cardio? Anyway, well, I digress. I have goals now between the two of you and Derrick. But yeah, like at some point we all have something that disables us from being able to perform physically, be it a physical inability, a mental inability, a social, you know, the social constructs, the constraints that we have prevent us from really being able to tap in. So I would like to kind of divvy into that realm, and we could start with you, Natalie, and then, you know, Derrick, you have experience with coaching adaptive athletes, but how was it for you to overcome your injury and heal from it and get, like Wes said, like you had this goal, you met it today. How was that journey for you, getting from knee surgery and, you know, you had to sit, you couldn't walk, you're limping along to where you are now? Because that's pretty resilient.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. You know, it's been a journey. I mean, okay, there's a couple of layers to this. So I had knee surgery. It was, you know, knee surgery is invasive. Luckily, I was able to be weight bearing. So I had the surgery. I took the weekend where I was just laying in bed, and then I had a week off where I didn't do anything. And then I was back on the bike right away, just to get the mobility and get moving and get that knee moving again. And then from that point on, it's just been a journey. I mean, it's been tough, you know. I mean, there are definitely points where you're feeling like, okay, I'm starting from ground zero. I think, you know, for people out there listening that are going through an injury or something that's barring them from running, I think you have to be patient with yourself. I think you have to give yourself a lot of grace. And I think you have to write down the goal. Whether it's, I don't think you'd necessarily have to write down the big pie in the sky goal, but just like, where do I want to be a month from now, 2 months from now? I want to be, you know, for me, it was like, how much time can I get on the bike? How much time can I get in the pool? And I wasn't really thinking about the running part so much in the beginning. And then it's just a slow journey from there. It was kind of a challenging puzzle almost. It's kind of like, how strong can I get? You know, let's really focus on the weights. Let's focus on core and all the things that I can do. And to kind of look now 10 months later where I've come from, and like, you know, my running is so strong. My knee is really good. I haven't had any problems with it. I just think that people out there that are struggling or going through an injury, you just kind of have to really be patient with yourself and know that you can get back there, especially if you have the right support system, in the sense of you have the right surgeon, making sure that you go. And I mean, I got several opinions on the right type of knee surgery and the right surgeon to have to do that procedure. And that's important. And having, you know, the right physical therapist and going to your PT appointments and doing the exercises and just loving yourself and knowing it will come back around. So
I love that. Doing the work that needs to be done and focusing on the things you can control and not the things that you can't. Those are just some powerful lessons that you just provided to us, because I think, like April said at the beginning, it was resilience, you know, to come back and get back at it. But from what I'm hearing, you just focused on the other weak points or the things that you could get stronger in the moments. And it's crazy when we think about life, because I think a lot of people only focus on what they can do, and they don't. And so then when they lose that, they feel like they don't have anything. And so you shifted that mindset, you know, and went into, okay, my core, you know, all these other things that you could do, which ultimately gives you the ability to be stronger, faster, better, you know, smarter, right? And so I wanted to make sure I highlight that, because that's powerful in anything, any lessons that people are trying to do, you know, just because and then you said you didn't focus on the running, you know, so that's another thing. It was like some people are only focused on getting back to something instead of like engaging into what they can do, because it could be long term. And if you did focus on the running, you might have caused more of an injury trying to get back quicker. So I just commend you of, you know, the resilience that you did have, but also to have that understanding that there were so many other things that could make you a better athlete and, you know, just better in the things that you're doing. So, yeah, love it.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Like, I feel like I've learned so much in this journey, in the sense that, like, I used to be the type of athlete that focused only on my running. It's kind of like, if I want to be a better runner, then I have to run more. And that is true. But I have learned that to become a better all-around athlete is so important and so fundamental to becoming a better runner. So, you know, really working on my strength, hitting weights and lower body weights. And now I feel like my running is so much stronger. I literally feel like when my foot hits the ground, I have a sense of energy and strength that I didn't have before, because I've been focusing so much more on weights and running in the pool, aqua jogging and biking and doing all of those things. And so I just want to say to people, become an overall a good athlete, and then the running will come, you know, and especially if you love running anyway, that's going to happen. But like, if you can become a strong athlete, that's going to help you overall. And then for the people that are just getting started, just go slowly. Just start out slow. Like if you can only run to your stop sign, and even if you have to walk in the middle of that, that's okay. Start somewhere. And I work with a lot of beginning runners, and I really believe in the run walk method. So, it's kind of like, in the beginning, if you can only run for 30 seconds or 20 seconds and you have to walk after that, that's okay. This is your own personal journey, and just, take it one day at a time. So
I love that. You also mentioned like all the things Wes said, that resonated with me. And we talk about that kind of stuff, like giving yourself grace. Like you said, you focused on what you could do, and that's available to all human beings. What can you do? Let's focus on that. And you advocated for yourself. And I think as a Black woman, that is so important. Like you said, you got multiple surgeons to give you recommendations and input into what practice they would do for you. And that is key to healing and taking care of ourselves, because I find if we don't advocate for ourselves, we're not always going to get the best care. And so I like that you said you went and you talked to multiple people to find out how you can get the best for yourself. And that's some of the stuff we do want to talk about on this platform. So with that, I'll piggy over here to Derrick, because you too coach as Natalie does. And I would love for you to share, like, yeah, you coach, but you also coach adaptive athletes. Like how, what she said, how does that resonate with you and the people you work with?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that Natalie said, really resonate for anyone and everyone, frankly, with, principles of modifying, scaling, and diversifying, being like large principles in terms of training, period, in anything that you do, adaptive, non-adaptive, the able-bodied individuals, whatever that may be, injury, coming off of injury, all of those kind of things. The first thing you want to do is to scale. And Natalie's can largely speak to this. After surgery, she wasn't hitting those 18-mile runs. I'm sure the first run was just getting back to it. And maybe that's, again, that she kind of alluded to, running to that stop sign without walking. Or maybe it's just like running 1 mile, scaling that to 18, post-surgery. So not going into it too soon, too quick kind of thing. So scale is the first thing that many people need to be conscious of as we kind of start getting into the training season, but also as you are doing anything, frankly. From there, modifying movements based upon injury, based upon condition, so on and so forth, and ability. All training platforms, all exercises, all movements aren't for everyone. Taking that into able-bodied consideration, but also for adaptive athletes as well. And there's a spectrum within both respective communities of modifications that need to be had for successful implementation, but also successful participation for irregardless of sport, activity, recreation, whatever that may be. Modification is key as well. And then finally, diversification. So diversifying how you're getting stimulus for whatever your training goal may be, whether that is building to 18 miles, whether that is successfully running 1 mile without stopping, diversifying the stimulus that you get to help support whatever your goal may be, whether that's, as Natalie again kind of mentioned, riding the bike, cross training, yoga, mindfulness, also, which should be largely considered the psychological component of training and running and participation at any kind of level, whether it's competitive or recreational. All of those things into consideration set you up for a successful event, run, participation, whatever you're doing. Diversifying, scaling, and modifying are going to be the principles and largely that get you to the start and through the finish safely and successfully.
I love listening to you guys talk. I love smart Black people. I like.
Yes.
We're so smart on this camp.
I love it.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about African Americans and running.
Yes.
And
never mind.
Go say it, Wes.
All right. Oh no. All right. I feel like it's funny in a sense because this is going to be all the way off of what you guys probably were going to say. But when I think of African Americans and running, I think it's been a normal thing. Now, I might not say that it's been in a competitive stage, but as a kid growing up, I know that activity was something, but I also know that running was imperative. Like, you had to run
for survival.
See, I was getting there, but April knew what I was trying to say. Like, seriously, like,
that's true.
So when you said it, all I could think of was like, dang, we always had to run. We had to run from something, like we had to, rather it was something, gunshots or the police up top. You had to run, in our communities, and all of it never didn't necessarily focus directly on sports, but there was a survival to it. Like, if you didn't run, then you the stigma was that you was just gonna, hey, get left out. So I don't know. I just felt like when you said that, it really hit me, because I was like, let me add this, because as we talk on these conversations, to be very transparent, there are people that are so privileged that they don't have to go out. They can go get into sports. They can go do things, but never think of the survival aspect of that young kid or teenager that's out there running, that is running for survival, is running because of a stigma or a mindset in the community. They're running from somebody. So that's our reality, rather it's us, rather it's our kids, our nephews, our nieces, a child we mentoring, somebody that got up and had to use their 2 feet, so.
Yeah. I love what you said is so key. And we talked about the access, the barrier to access to the privileged part of it. And I know, Derrick, you work in this realm. And then I want to, talk to Natalie too about how we can influence that and shift that narrative to make it real. Like, there's a natural, inherent cultural component to the fact that in communities, we have to run, and people do run. And I remember just running in the middle of the streets of LA, just having races in the middle of the streets, like all the cars, whatever. We're having a football game, we're having a track meet, we're doing something in the middle of the street. But Derrick, you brought up some stuff when we had our pre-panel conversation about, is running for everybody?
Yeah, and that's, a large conversation that I think many people within the industry and outside of it are having. And, shifting from, is it for everyone? Is it equitable? Is running it, and as you've alluded to, April, like, are there barriers structurally or even, perceived that are keeping people from participating in any kind of capacity? And, I think within the year, the difficult year that we all had in 2020, I think a lot of those things are being discussed now. And hopefully, optimistically, intentionally being addressed moving forward in the future, of, access and advocacy and, barriers within respective communities that lead people to, take the next step of running in a communal standpoint, but also from an event or even from a health and wellness standpoint, just to address their own personal health. So, as everyone's kind of mentioned here, inherently, we've all been running in some kind of capacity in some way. What was the reasoning behind that? What was the why for you moving at that point in time and using running as any certain vehicle for whatever that may be? I think there's the sentiment of a why can endure anyhow kind of thing. So if we understand why we're doing that, we can harness that to then further perpetuate the reason that we're using it, so to speak. So, for myself growing up, I used running just as like an opportunity. I did track, but also in the fall I did football. So cross country was like out of my world and out of my picture there. But I used running in the spring just to stay active, frankly, and to gain a sense of community within my respective team. And moving forward and moving on, going from high school to college and playing football there, and then moving out of college and into the real world, there was no community that I saw myself in the running community. And that was just difficult at that point in time. So I found myself running by myself, which, I very largely appreciate solidarity. And I use that time for myself to, process my world and prepare myself for whatever's going on for the rest of the day. Kind of like what Natalie does, I'm sure, as well, with running in the morning, and then you're set. You feel like you can take on the world at that point in time after you hammer out that 18-mile run, or Wes working out for 2 hours. It's like whatever is coming my way for the rest of the day, I did the hardest part already, so it's like no problem. But that being said, there is sense and value within that communal approach as well. Confiding in others, challenging and working alongside one another as a community to work strongly together as well. So, largely there's like things that need to be addressed for those to be perpetuated, and for those to feel like they can come along others to run along each other, so to speak. But, from a communal standpoint, there's advocacy that needs to be done as well, with like structural issues. Running is accessible inherently. It takes shoes, and sometimes not even that, to go outside and just like move or walk or so on and so forth. But with air quality, that being largely an issue within low income and economic communities, that's an issue that should be addressed. Infrastructure, broken sidewalks, poor streets, poor lighting, all of those things should be addressed, because then it's like an issue of like, is running really helping me? And is it really that accessible if like I'm going in and breathing this awful air quality? Or if I'm worried about safety in my own community, I'd rather stay in and play video games and feel safe at that point in time. Those are like broad picture things that should be addressed as well. So yeah, I'll kind of kick it over to everyone else. I won't go I can go on for days about this, but I'll kind of kick it over for everyone else.
Yeah. Natalie, how do you feel about that? And I know you shared your story, but you guys, Natalie's like a badass. So she has been a representative on magazine covers. She's been in articles. She has been like an icon for some. And you might not see it because it's like, this is just part of what's happening, but you are definitely an influencer. And have you seen any power in that? Have you seen people gravitate to that who are excited to see a Black woman with a family, a Black woman who is, a reflection of who they are? And how's that been for you?
Yeah, you're right. I don't, it's hard when you're in it and you don't see yourself in that role. But I do want to say that, I am a Black woman. I have 3 kids and I juggle a lot. And if anybody that looks like me, right, can say, well, gosh, if she can do it, maybe then I can do it too. And it only takes the power of, influencing one person and then another person. And if any way I can be a part of that, along with a lot of other wonderful women in the world right now who are, being influencers as well, then I'm happy, and I'm happy to use my voice and to speak out. And, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting year, as you all know. And 2020 was definitely a year where, it just opened our eyes even more. And as a Black woman in America, it opened my eyes even more to think, wow, we're still going through so much. And what does that look like? And how does that influence people? And how do we navigate through that? Because, a big part of the Black community is we want, our community to move their bodies and to be outside, and running is one way to do that. And I was starting to hear through a lot of conversations that people weren't feeling safe. They were like, I don't feel safe running in my neighborhood. I don't feel safe when I go on vacation or I go out, or whatever the situation might be, because they felt like there was many reasons that people might look at them and think that they weren't out running for exercise. Maybe they were running because of some other reason, and maybe they look suspicious, and they were saying that they had to dress a certain way or make sure that they were perceived a certain way. And it was so much, and I was just taking it all in. And somehow wanting to use the platform that I have to say, you know what, running is for you. It is for you. And I want people to feel comfortable in the space. And I know there's a lot of work to be done for people to feel that way, but gosh, I just hope that any little thing that we can do, and people like Derrick and April and Wes and like all of us, if anybody can, hear this and know that running is for you. And I'm here for you. DM me, email me, we can talk about it. I know there's people feel like there's barriers of entry, like, wow, I go to a running club, but I don't feel comfortable because there's no one in that running club that looks like me. I think those slowly but surely we are starting to change that narrative. I think that, there's some really great running groups in the US right now that are people of color that are like, hey, we are here. We're starting our own running group. Come. Not only do you have to be a Black person, you can be of any race or ethnicity. Come and join us, but we're here. And so I think that is wonderful. And if we can continue to do that, continue to see people of color in leadership roles like coaching and podcasting and being leaders of run clubs, that will show other people sitting at home that maybe possibly want to get into the sport that it is for you. So I just think we have to continue the conversation and conversations like this. So
it can be empowering, and I'll give it to you, Wes, when I make this statement, but we had Ahmaud Arbery who went for a run. He just simply went for a run and he was killed because of that. And that he's not the only person who's been accosted, when they're out for a run, or like you said, stared at differently or whatnot. And that's when we talk about barrier to entry and access, and like, oh, he must be running from something. The man just simply went out for a jog and was harassed. And we don't want to live under that oppressive fear. And like you said, this is why we do this. This is a platform to say, like, that's our God-given right, to go outside and move down the street in any way we want to. And this platform is to expose, like, hey, we all look different. Like, all of us on the screen look different. And we are doing what we can to take care of ourselves. And with that being said, running, we're talking about running, but it's like building up your aerobic capacity, building up aerobic endurance. And that can be done in various ways. So we can walk. I know there's adaptive tools that can be used for people who can just move their arms. And I want to talk about like all the adaptations that we can do for running, and also talk about how it does increase our aerobic capacity and how that influences our brain. So whoever wants to unmute and dive into that, I welcome you.
Was we thinking? No. Hold on. Let me jump the gun real quick and just throw it out. I know it was like, oh man. So I just want to throw this out because I'm curious to know what adaptations you guys do think of when it comes to running. Like me just being a person that is paraplegic. The only thing that I have is a hand bike or going out to go push. But I do put myself in phases of endurance and intensity so that I can see myself like someone else that's jogging. I guess pushing myself to a different level of like going to 5 and 10Ks to see where do I mount up to somebody that's able-bodied. So like for me, that's always been my visual of like, am I doing good? Am I pushing myself to get to some, at a level that somebody that able-bodied is going? Am I getting the right endurance, within that push or that hand bike or anything like that to really do it? So for me, that's been my source, of course, but I work with a lot of different people. So just kind of, as Derrick, you've worked with adaptive athletes. And what you guys imply when it comes to adaptations and modifications. And Derrick, you spoke strongly on modifications when you were speaking earlier. So I'm just gonna, I know y'all was like trying to figure out who was gonna hit that mute button, but just wanted to throw that out there. So whoever's next, I got you.
Without further ado, right? I was kind of slow playing on muting to see who was going to do it, but yeah, as Wes kind of alluded to, there's so many different ways in which you can modify to get the stimulus that you're hoping to achieve. And Wes did a great job with mentioning a couple in terms of adaptive sport divisions with wheelchair division, in terms of like a sport chair, but also like hand cycles. And there's many adaptive recreation and sport leagues and kind of like opportunities and modalities now, which is tremendous, with wheelchair sports ranging from rugby to basketball to soccer, like in football. There's so many different wheelchair sports that are available now, but also in terms of like fitness kind of capacities as well. There's CrossFit and high intensity interval training and all of those things that kind of Wes has kind of alluded to, which has been tremendous. That'll help you hit stimulus that you're hoping to achieve, whether it is bouts of short efforts, high intensity efforts, or if it's just an aerobic or endurance type capacity as well, with longer endurance type workouts and stimulus and so on and so forth. So there's a number of different resources and modalities out there for individuals that, and even able-bodied individuals that want to hop in sport chairs and get some awareness and participation in those kind of capacities too.
I like, so I was milling about my running career. But honestly, so I lived in Atlanta for a few years. I would do the Peachtree Road Race. And I remember when I worked at this particular facility, the instructors, we were required to do our VO2. We had to wear we had a polar heart rate monitors, all of that. And I would run, I'd go around Stone Mountain, run twice, because that I think was like 10 plus miles doing that. LA, I did one marathon, but I was used to accessibility growing up in California because there's sidewalks. I didn't know like people didn't have sidewalks until I moved to the South. I'm like, oh my God, I have to be careful. Somebody can just run me off the road. But I'm going to ask you guys if you know this. One benefit of increasing your heart rate is that you have a lower resting heart rate. So I'm curious to know if you guys know what your resting heart rates are, and you lower your blood pressure. And that helps to also trigger your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the nervous system. You have sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic, what happens is like when we're heightened and we're anxious and we're stressed, we go into fight or flight and we have an adrenaline rush and our body's preparing to protect us. But you want to stimulate the nervous system that'll calm you down. And running can do that. And one adaptive thing that I can remember is I wouldn't train the way I should for the Peachtree, but I taught cycle. And like Natalie said, you got on that bike. I was on the bike 2-3 times a week, and I was doing my yoga 2-3 times a week. And I remember my resting heart rate all the time was like in the low 40s. And the doctor's like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I was able to run the Peachtree because of the cycling and my yoga. I did run, but not nearly as much as I should. So that's an adaptation. Like if you can't just go out there and run, get on the bike. Maybe you can, move the bike. Like you can use your hand bike, and also deep breathing, right? Because I'm assuming you runners do the diaphragmatic breathing. So is that a benefit you guys have seen your heart rate, or have you guys looked into that?
I'll jump in. You know what? I know a lot of people are really into measuring their resting heart rate. I don't as much, so I can't really speak to that. I think it's pretty low. But I will say that what you're saying, like as far as like what you were doing with cycling and yoga, I mean, that can be so good. I mean, runners, number one, we are notoriously known for being so tight. Our hips are tight, everything is tight. And so yoga is such a great way to not only relax you and help with stress and anxiety, but I have some yoga moves for runners that I love to do. I love the pigeon and legs up the wall and warrior and happy baby. And those are critical to, I think, keeping myself healthy and stretched out, So I'm a big proponent of yoga. And then the cycling, of course, this year has been really eye-opening for me. I'm a big proponent of getting on the bike and cross-training. I would love to talk about a little bit. I am a fan of Aqua Jogging, and in the sense that, all right, so you get an Aqua Jogger belt, everybody listening, and you put it on and you pull it tight and you get in the deep end of the pool. So your feet are not touching the bottom. If you're touching the bottom, you're doing it wrong. So you're in the deep end and then you are simulating running in the pool, and you can get a really good workout. If you work really hard and get your heart rate up, you can get a really good workout without the impact of running, which is not only good for when you're coming back from an injury, but just to get in more volume without the pounding of running. So I didn't mean to go down that road, but I wanted to say that. But, it's interesting too, in the Black community, especially, we have such a problem with high blood pressure and diabetes and just, so many things that plague our families. And I think that that's where movement and running and cross training come in so much that can really help that if you get on a consistent program, and of course tweaking your eating habits and all of those things. It can change your life. It can really change your life and extend your life as well.
I like that you added the part of eating habits. We can all talk about physical activity, but nutrition is key. Nutrition is key in everything we do in life. Nutrition is the reason why I get up at 4 a.m. and can go and do the things I do. Same way for you, Natalie. 18 miles, just nutrition, hydration. So I guess for me, what are some of those tools that people can take, like nutrition, for those that are trying to get a quick run, not 18 miles, but maybe they want to do 30 minutes or so. And Derrick, you can answer this too, but what are some quick, tips for somebody that isn't really your healthiest person, but want to get engaged into an active life, but they haven't got to that point of I'm consistent in running and I'm eating salads and egg whites and stuff every morning. So because it's going to be different from somebody that's weightlifting, so I don't know this either, right? So what are your tips when it comes to what do you eat before you go run, right? What do you eat before you go run? Rather it's a short run, is there a difference in food for a short run? And there's a difference in food for a long run.
That was good, Wes.
Yeah. Nutrition is so important, and as being a coach, and I know Derrick can speak to this as well, but being a coach, I work with athletes, and one thing that we talk about is their nutrition, because here's the thing. You can run and do all this work, you can lift weights and you can cross train and all this stuff. But if you're not eating the right foods and you're not eating healthy and you're not eating enough, you're not fueling your body for performance, just like you would put in premium fuel for a car, right? And if you didn't, you couldn't expect it to go fast or go at all. Then you're just not going to feel good. You're not going to have the type of performance that you're looking for. And for a lot of people out there, they get into the sport of running because they want to lose weight. Honestly, that's where a lot of it starts, the beginning runners, and they want to be healthy. They want to get heart healthy. They want to lower their cholesterol, or they want to lower their blood pressure and all of these things. And that's where, nutrition comes in. So that's the first thing I look at with my athletes is, what are you eating? Let me look at a couple of days or a week's worth of your eating and drinking. And it's kind of eye-opening to see that there's a lot missing there. A lot of people are not eating, health. I think a healthy breakfast is so important. And really feeding yourself and not starving yourself. Like your body, if you're going to put the work in, it needs food. It needs, protein. It needs eggs. It needs, things like oatmeal and, a carbohydrate protein mix. And especially when you're finishing like a long run, it's important to. So for instance, for me, okay, so I did this really long run today. So the muscle fibers that have been like torn a little bit, right, from that run need to be repaired. And so it's important to get a good amount of protein in to start to repair those muscles and feed yourself and put back all of the nutrients that were lost. So things like that, and hydration is so important. I mean, so many people are walking around practically dehydrated all day and don't even realize it. And so whether it's logging your water or tracking your water and having electrolytes in, if you're doing, a lot of high intensity exercise is so important. Fruits and vegetables and a variety of different foods. I love sweet potatoes and quinoa and, lots of green leafy vegetables. I think that it's almost like people need to have like almost like a nutrition course along with it, because like I said before, and I really believe this, you can do all of this work, right? And if you're not eating right, it's not going to do any good. I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to that are training or have trained for a marathon and gain a lot of weight during the marathon. So I also want to say you can run 15 miles and that doesn't mean you can go have a whole pizza afterwards, right? It doesn't add up. Like you still, and I know, with women and even men too, and like the whole diet culture and food and all of that, we can go down that path, that rabbit hole that can be, triggering, and it's sometimes hard for people. So that's hard to talk about as well, but it's all about fuel and feeding yourself, not depriving yourself of food, but healthy, good food. But I'd love to hear what Derrick has to say because he's a coach.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of and actually all that you said rings true. You can't outwork a bad diet. So you have to be intentional with things that you're consuming. And there's so many ways that we can go when talking of nutrition in the context of endurance running, but everything needs to be calculated. Frankly, when you are hoping for your best run and your best opportunity and result is going to be calculated, so to speak. So it's what you're eating, when you're eating, fueling on the course, and then of course, post race recovery. All of those things matter, and there are implications when any of them are missed, frankly. So when you're training and preparing for any kind of race, that's also an opportunity to train in terms of nutrition. Find what works for you, what helps you respond well on those long runs, and so on and so forth. All of those are learning opportunities for you to prepare for your event. So again, as Natalie mentioned, eating breakfast is a good place to start for a lot of people. Eating breakfast and having a full breakfast to prepare yourself for whatever you're going to take on, whether it's that 16-mile run or for Wes, if that's that two-hour workout. It starts with fueling for successful performance. And then fueling and aiding throughout those longer runs, but also, again, as mentioned, post-workout as well. All of those things matter. They're not in silos, so to speak. They oftentimes go hand in hand, especially as you finish those long runs and you may feel really bad the next day. And maybe that's attributed to you having that pizza instead of having a nice, nutritious meal and staying hydrated after that run. Those things are not in silos, so to speak. But I also wanted to jump on one thing April mentioned in terms of heart rate reserve, which is now so much more accessible than it was previously. You had to wear those monitors that were clunky and so on and so on, and those straps that went across your chest at some point in time. It's now so much more accessible to take that next step, which is, I would say, in a more intermediate to advanced level of training in terms of training zones and heart rate variability being intentional with that and not going 100 miles per hour for 2 straight hours. Instead, like setting yourself up successfully for a training regimen and program for a week or a month or whatever that may be, for your training plan intentionally. Again, like intention goes so far for people in anything that we do. Of course, like training, but also applying that to your personal life. Being intentional with your time and how you allocate it and what you're doing during that allocation is so pivotal and so important. So training intentionally with heart rate within those zones, and then keeping in mind your heart rate variability as well, is so important. There's like so much wearable technology now with Apple Watch and Whoop straps and so on and so forth that give you insight as to, I went really hard the day before, my sleep was this, I should probably scale my workout to a little bit, to something less intensive to where I can then take on the next day. We often get so involved and so caught up in like taking on the next thing 100% when sometimes it requires you to go 85%, frankly. And that's a principle that we can apply to our world. You could see burnout when you're going 100%, 10, 12, 15 days. And oftentimes like the perception in the world is if you're not working hard, you're not working at all kind of thing. And it's like, right, working hard today is 85% for me. Yeah. So tomorrow I can go 90. And so the next day I can go 100. All of those things are important. I mean, the journey that we all go on, whether it's training or personally, is individualized. We're all going at it personally ourselves. Of course, we have like a great support system, and those that are lucky enough to have them have tremendous support systems. But at the end of the day, it's Natalie, you're crossing that finish line. It's Wes, it's you're taking on that endurance event. You need to be intentional with that, of being smart with your training, but also understanding the way you measure yourself is not outworking the next person. It's giving what you have today, which is so important. So there's just so many like things within, and maybe I got off the track here, but in terms of like, all of those things are important as you get prepared and like take on whatever you're doing personally, in the fitness and like endurance space, whatever that may be, all of those things are important.
Yeah, I love that. I like that you said intentionality, and we always talk about mindset stuff. You were there with me, Wes?
I was about to jump on and be like, it's very important. And April put, you quoted, you can't outwork a good diet. That's just powerful. If people understood what the importance of diet and how it helps you become successful in all things in life, then I think this world would be a better place, right? Like so many toxic mindsets is coming from food. So, for you guys to stress it and us to have such amazing people weekly, no matter what the topic is, it always comes down to what you're putting in your body, what you're feeding your body, so outside of food, right? Like we're big on books here. We're big on knowledge and understanding. And so, what are you feeding your body outside of the food? And I think, I don't know if April, you're ready for the book, the book drop, but I feel like, this is how we normally close out our conversations. And of course we'll do a closer, but I thought, with all this great information, food is one thing, but then how do you get yourself prepared? How do you keep feeding that? Yeah, because knowledge is power, and nobody goes without something giving you that fuel. So what fuels you outside of food?
Yeah.
And if you have a book, recommendation for our audience, please share that too while you let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to share my book as well, but I love everything about this conversation. I loved what Derrick had to say. I love what Wes had to say. And April, thank you for bringing us all together. This is awesome. I just really wanted to say too, I'm such a big proponent of like everything, like the nutrition is key. And for people out there listening who are in a athletic endeavor, whether it's running or whatever it is that you're doing, but hopefully it's running because we love that. Eat good food, eat whole foods, really take a look at your diet. And if you need help, if you need a consultation with a nutritionist, a one-time consultation just to get you started, invest in it. Because if you're going to invest the money in the shoes, the clothes, the watch, and all this stuff, and you're not eating right, you're not getting the performance, and you're not feeling good, then it's really kind of all for naught. So I would absolutely recommend doing that. And I also wanted to say, as a coach, take your easy days easy. I know you guys, I know Derrick, you're right there with me, right? I feel like so many runners, and I work with young kids as well, like high school kids, and they just want to go really fast all the time. And I'm always like, you know what? You have to learn to run slow to run fast. You really do. And if, and it's funny, we were talking about heart rate really quickly. And I can feel when my heart rate is elevated and when I need to scale it back. And I'm like, you know what? Today I need to either take the day off or really just run really easy, because my body is telling me that it's stressed, it's tired from the day's workout before, and that just chill. And you need to get in tune with your body and really find out what your body needs. And that's going to ultimately help your performance tremendously. And I've learned that so much in over 30 years of running. So I would say just take your easy days easy so that you can be ready to take your hard days hard. But I know we wanted to talk about the book our books really quick. And I know we're wrapping up, but I wanted to tell you guys what I'm reading right now. I am loving this book. You guys have to get it. It's called Atomic Habits. It's by James Clear. My coach recommended it. We're actually having a book club with my coach and some other athletes. It's an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. You guys, I cannot put this book down. It is so good.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared that with us.
Yeah. Atomic Habits, James Clear. Go get it.
Ooh, nice. I'm writing that down.
Thank you. Yes, we love books. And yeah, that's something I'm actually go tap into. I buy every book that's recommended on here so that I can have them. And so always. So what about you, Derrick? What's going on? What's the fuel? What's the fuel for your body outside of food? But
so I'm currently reading Comfort Crisis. Trying to get this here by Michael Easter. I'm also a huge fan of Malcolm Gladwell. Read every book of Gladwell. I feel like that's just everyone's part on that train there in terms of Malcolm Gladwell.
What is it called? Comfort? What?
The Comfort Crisis.
The Comfort.
Which is a tremendous book that really helps challenge yourself in ways in which you've become complacent, and areas in which you've become very complacent within your life. I'm always in the world of challenging myself. There's so much that has occurred in 2020, personally, professionally. I got married in 2020. So much going on in my world.
You were married twice.
Twice, yeah. To the same person.
To the same person.
But within stages of life, I found that I've been challenged more and more in different areas. And what the Comfort Crisis, the book in there, has allowed me to really assess ways in which I need to develop as a person, as a brother, as a husband, as a son, just ways in which I need to get better. Because oftentimes and I feel like in 2020, many of us had situations and circumstances where we encountered them and we're like, oh, I can go one of two ways. And, maybe not just instinctually within 2020 or exceptionally within there, but areas in which we are at a crossroads to just think I can go one of two different ways and I can develop as a person in this opportunity. And for full transparency, mine was transparency, frankly, and being vulnerable in times in which I got married, of course, and then it was I have to be vulnerable with this person. I can't just shut people out and say I'm going to go on this run or I'm going to go work out and everything will be fine. It takes communication. It takes being vulnerable with people and saying, you know what, in this moment, I'm not okay. Working within and with people to bring alongside on your journey. So, the comfort crisis really gets into a lot of those things and helps like support, and oftentimes in like, not just the Black community, but in the male community, it's oftentimes like, we don't have space to address this emotionally. Like, we don't have time to do this. So leave your emotions at the door kind of thing, which is like, that's another discussion.
I appreciate you sharing that. Just you saying that, I appreciate you. And I was going to say that, like, as a man and as a Black man, for you opening up and just being vulnerable, even in this space, to say that is so powerful.
Yeah. And it in previous, years and so on and so forth, it's taken a lot of like development as a person. Hopefully, Wes, you can, say the same. It's much strong. It takes much more strength to say I'm not okay than it is to say I'm good, and just move on.
Yeah.
It takes much more to address those. And kudos to my wife. My wife's a social worker, so she like processes all these things with me. I probably sound a little clinical at this moment in time, but if she sees this, she'll get a good laugh. It takes moments like that to address that and to become a better person. So the comfort crisis really helps like push me out of that zone, and also just a lot of the readings that I do, period, have helped me do that. So long, like to zero this down, like the people that I spend my time with feed me, Wes, as to answer the question that you had. The company that I keep, my wife, my brother, my family, my friends feed me to not be complacent, to not shut down, to not kick people out and say, I'm good, I don't need to address this. They help me like reel me in to say, no, let's address this right now. Both personally and like from an athletic standpoint. It's easy to like not go to the gym when those hard workouts are programmed, where your weaknesses are out there. It's easy to say, I'll find another modality, I'll like run, as opposed to like hitting this movement or this exercise that I'm not good at. And it takes community to say like, no, this is for you. You need to come on in here. We'll hammer this out. So, that hopefully that answers your question. Wes.
Most
community, people, my wife, like my family, my friends, they're what feed me.
No, I think that's just important. I truly appreciate it. Like April said, the transparency. A lot of people, thinking that fuel comes from things that aren't, that you're not connected to sometimes, so just speaking of community, family, just those that are close to you, embodying that energy around you that fuels you to be a better person, right? Like, and then having the humility and vulnerability to know when you need to work on you. So that all of that is just powerful. And then you push yourself. So thank you for the book recommendations, y'all, because I'm going to tap into them. I will be quick with mine. Well, all right. So first of all, it is my idol's birthday. Shout out to Nipsey Hussle. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's his birthday.
It's Nipsey's birthday. So one of the books that I would already recommend is a book that came out recently called The Marathon Don't Stop. It's Nipsey Hussle's story, but very, very transparent and powerful. It comes from a business perspective as well as just really showing, from highlighting his life. So that is something that, and then the marathon don't stop, right? So we keep it going. So I thought that would be a great way to add that. But I just got into a new book. It's called From Good to Great. And as a business person and just trying to get more knowledge into the business field, but also how do you take the tools that help you elevate in business and implement them in your life? And Derrick, I know you had spoke on something like that earlier. Good to Great is so far has been very powerful, just because one, it's teaching me more about the stock market and all these other things that I didn't have knowledge about, but it's also showing like how you have to continue pushing yourself to get after certain goals, to amount to not just being average, but it has to come from the mindset of what you want to do and the culture that you provide around you. So it's not just let me on a competitive stage and be the best person in the world. Just how can I be better than what I was yesterday in a sense, rather it's business or livelihood. So for me, you have to go in with a different mindset and not thinking it's just business that is teaching you. But Good to Great has been so far, amazing book by Jim Collins. So, yes, April.
Thank you guys. And Natalie is in SoCal, and you guys know I'm native. Natalie West, he's like part Los Angelinos right now. So his affinity for Nipsey Hussle, when he said that, I was like, that's because you're going to be moving there soon.
Yes, most definitely.
Oh wait, you're moving to LA, Wes?
I'm manifesting that. I'm speaking that into being.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, let's get together.
We've been manifesting it. It's happening.
He's been there like 4 times this last year. He's been working there, Natalie. Yes.
Yeah, it's coming.
We're gonna bring you along too. So I love this whole thing about community, and I just came from the Bay. I was there, and there's this beautiful bookstore, shout out Underground Books in Oak Park. It's in Sacramento, and there's this whole area called 40 Acres Market, and it was like all Black owned bookstore. They had beautiful apartment complex, just a beautiful community. But I wanted to invest in them, so I bought Cicely Tyson, Just As I Am. And this book is so good. I mean, who can we learn from but those who paved the way before us, right? So I'm trying to be 98 years old or 100, and I have really dived into this book. So this is my book recommendation. Look at all of that beauty. I mean, it's been an amazing read right now.
I want to read that. Thank you for putting that on my radar. You know, I heard about it at some point, maybe when it came out or something, people were talking about it, but oh my gosh, I can't wait to read that.
It's good. Like, I'm getting chills even speaking about it. So yes. And I just want to sum up, like, I have chills thinking of what you guys shared. Be intentional, point blank. Like Natalie said in the beginning, write down what your goals are. Right. You know, think about what they are. Write them. They don't have to be big. They can be big. We talked about taking care of ourselves, like everything that plagues the Black community, high blood pressures, all these diseases. It's not because we are Black. It's because of racial stress and trauma and economic stress and trauma. So it's what the community is compounded with. And this was an opportunity to show how we have overcome and gotten to the point where we are in our lives through exercise. That's what we all have in common, aside from the color of our skin. We have found a way and an outlet, and all of us have had this this concept of cardio, aerobic endurance, and movement. So I thank you guys for that. But being intentional, eating well, and taking care of yourself. We are our number one project, right? We invest in ourselves. We take care of ourselves, because no one's going to do it. Like you said, Derrick, no one's going to do it but you in the end, and surrounding ourselves with community. So I thank you guys for being here and sharing that wisdom, because running was it, but it was because there's so much more in it as well. So I wrote down all your books. We are going to invite you guys on again. And are there any other closing tidbits? I mean, I hate to go. It's like we should be here for another 2 hours, but we have lives.
No, this has been so awesome. I have loved this so much. I hope people really get a lot out of this. I think that they will. And I think, you know, some of the takeaways are just, you are important. You are special, you know, and take care of you, because if you take care of yourself, and I've learned this, right? If I go on my run and I feel good, like I can be a good mom to my kids, you know, a supportive spouse to my husband, and a good friend, and just all of these things, because I feel good and I take care of me. Like, right, when we talk about getting on the plane and like you put your own safety belt on and all of that, and then you take care of the next person. So if we look at that in terms of exercise as well. And one thing that I wanted to say was, I heard this come up in the last week or so, and it was really powerful. And people were saying, you know, we need more people of color as in the endurance coaching space. And I was like, yes. Oh my gosh, like how many Black people do you see that are coaching endurance runners, right? Like marathon, ultra marathon, and beyond. And we need to see that. We need more of that. So let's infuse that out there. Derrick, you know, everybody, let's, you know, we're here. We want to help. And I think it's so important. I really do. So I'm super excited to be here. Well, let's keep following each other and keep talking and just be here to support each other.
Thank you. Derrick, any last closing thoughts?
No, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. April, Wes, Natalie, of course, to be alongside you and Marissa, just to spend time. And frankly, I'm energized by spending time with you all, even virtually and remotely here.
Me too.
It's so good to have like such great company that everyone's kind of like working in their own space, but also the intersection around what all brings us together here. So I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. So thank you all so much for that. And kudos, best of spirit and wishes to each of you.
Thank you, Derrick. Well, I'm going to go put on my tennis shoes. You guys motivated me. Thank you, Wes. I'm going to let you close it out.
You know, just, hey, thank everybody for being a part of this and watching this. And of course, we've just heard the takeaways. Long story short, push yourself, you know, make sure you're taking care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. Understand that the people around you, family, friends, community, can be the fuel to help you stay driven. Read more. It just helps you. And nutrition is key in all ways. So whether it's you take baby steps and start hydrating your body more, or you eat more fruits and vegetables. But if you want to be a great athlete, if you want to be successful in anything you're doing, take care of yourself first.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Well, and we're here, you guys. DM us. We could connect you to Natalie. We could connect you to Derrick. Wes and I are here. So happy Sunday and bye. I think Marissa's going to